options were changed in OBS, and it no longer recognized my microphone. So I just had to go to my audio settings and re-enable that. Okay.
Mhm.
Ah, yes. Now I see the sound bars. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so we just
Okay.
had
Yeah.
uh, our conversation for the past 6 or 7 minutes was just completely lost to time. Oh well, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah, I guess you should.
I guess we can start now. Yeah. All right. So, welcome, present and future viewers. This is the first stream of Songs of the Eons since I believe May of this year, in a couple months, and a very large amount has changed. Of course, Calandio can talk about this more later. The game got another engine change or modification, maybe is a better word,
Yeah.
and the the game has gameplay now. There is still no world generation. Damien's working on that still. But I think, I mean, unless you want to say anything before we jump into the game, I wanted to just start loading the default planet now.
I think we can just jump into the game, yeah, because so much has changed that I think it's better to just go through it one by one while it's visible on the screen.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just didn't know if you wanted to mention anything about Rust and Love, or if that's important, if you think it
Oh,
matters.
yeah, so basically, when Damien returned in a bit more of a capacity, he more or less requested that we do this, so I didn't have much of a say. uh, but yeah, now all of the game is written in Lua, which makes the game much easier to modify and mod, so that will hopefully help us in the long run. Besides that, it's a little bit slower, but I don't think it's a large issue. It seems to be running fast enough so far, and there is orders of magnitude more logic running now than ever before.
Yeah, the speed. I mean, it seems a little bit slower than before, but it's not unplayable or anything. It's still a perfectly acceptable speed.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm actually we're actually targeting something a little bit slower than EU4. I think I had mentioned that at times. So this will likely still be slower than this
Well, I mean, given the
when
complexity of
everything
the
is in.
game, though, I think we
Yeah,
shouldn't really expect it to be super fast.
yeah, there are always trade-offs, right?
All right, so I guess, I mean, basically everything is going to be immediately different just at a glance. So you can see now there are provinces, and when I click on a province, this province UI opens, and there are also a bunch more map modes. I'm not even sure where to start because there's so much. So I guess I'll just go through the map modes. Now, some of them you'll recognize. There is no real life map mode still. This is the default world. You can only see this world at the moment because there's no world generation. Um,
Yeah.
Here's the RGB vegetation map, which is still my favorite map mode. You can just see at a glance the plants and the biomes. I think that's very handy. Let's see, realms. Yes, there are realms now. And this is not all the world is populated, but most of it is. And these realms can interact with each other, which we will see in a while. Let's see, population. Yes, now there are pops in the world. The different provinces have different, numbers of people in them, which is indicated here on this screen. Some provinces are much more populous than others, and this can change. People can die and be born. And let's see here. That's not terribly interesting, nor is that. Ah, okay. Carrying capacity per tile. I think this is a useful map mode to illustrate how this game it's partially province based and partially tile based. So you can see that this carrying capacity per tile clearly indicates that different tiles have different values. Yet if I click on the province, the whole province becomes selected. And so it's taking these per tile values and then propagating them up to the province level. Is that a correct way of saying it, do you think, Calandiel?
Yeah, it is. It's basically a simple sum. In some places we take averages, in others we sum the variables. But basically we take aggregates of over larger areas so that the game can run faster.
Yep, that makes sense. And then, oh, resources. Yeah, this is also new. So there are various resources, and if you click on the tile that has the resource, you can see right here, local resources. There's flint. That matters. That's important. You'll see that later. Here's native gold. Let's see, iron, flint again. Here's green. What's a green? Raw gems. And what's this one? Quality stone, meteor. So all of these resources, well, okay, not all of them are useful yet, but some of them are. And they will be tied to the technology system, which will matter later. Again, I got to go. It's there's just so much, I keep saying, oh, I'll talk about this later. I'll talk about that later. Okay, the soil
Yeah,
stuff.
this will probably take a while.
Yes, yeah, this is going to be a long stream for sure. The soil stuff is unfinished. I think that's probably not really worth showing. Same thing with rainfall. I'm pretty sure that's the sort of thing Damien is still working on. Yeah. So we'll just skip that for now. Carrying capacity. Now this, you saw carrying capacity per tile. This is per province. And I think this is pretty self-explanatory. The brighter colors can support more population. Uh, Now you'll note, up here close to North Pole. Oh, whoa. Oh, okay. Well, there's something interesting. Not sure what to make of that. Anyway, uh,
Uh, what happened? Because I didn't see it on stream.
okay. So like this. Here, I'll keep it on.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have to fix that. Thanks for reminding me.
Okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just kind of weird. I'm not even sure how to describe that. Anyway, you can see
Basically,
that.
when you get to the very top. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, there's a lag between us, so I'll start talking, then you start talking, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so you can see that there are provinces that are actually pretty close to the North Pole that have rather high carrying capacity, which you can see right here, 59, 50, 51. And this is due to the locally available resources, presumably. There's no fishing or anything like that yet in the game, but these conifer forests up here, presumably, are rather.
As if I may interject, there is no fishing per se, but in order to account for effects of fishing temporarily, I made cross-tile tiles have slightly higher carrying capacity, which is reflected in the carrying capacity per tile map mode. It's a
Oh,
temporary hack, but it helps us create these more northern populations for debugging.
gotcha. Okay. Okay, and so then I guess a province that has a lot of coastline then necessarily would get a bigger benefit than one that has less coastline.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Well, good thing we're talking. Okay, let's see. Tile improvements, we'll get to that later. Income, we'll get to that later. Yeah, there's coastlines, like you said. Oh, yes, now we have these new map modes here, which are the demographic map. Wait, no. Yeah, the demographic map modes. So, technology we'll get to later. Race. Right now, there are three races in the game. Green is the elves, white is the humans, and brown is the high beavers. And you can actually see their files in the folder for the game. There are some small differences between them right now, but they're not really significant enough to matter with the gameplay that we have
Well,
at
well, I
this
will say
point.
that elves are pretty immortal, so I would say that matters quite a bit.
Well, I mean, no, I mean for the gameplay as it exists in this particular moment.
Yeah, I suppose it doesn't change much in the decision making, but there are some important differences already. For example, elves are much better at spotting incoming enemies in forests than humans. They're also better at sneaking in, so if you raid with small forces, you'd be able to do it more successfully. They also have lower populations because they have different nutritional needs, and they also have different life stages and different lifespans. So they also, deal with generational overturn differently.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay. You know what? This whole time, I never noticed that they had an easier time spotting raids in forests. That just
Yeah,
that.
I think it's also a good moment to say that everything here is subject to change. We still have to balance all of it. We probably don't want the beavers to be all over the place, and would prefer them to be focused on rivers. Uh, but yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wow. Good thing I have you here, so I won't tell people incorrect things. So I guess the races are a bit more significant than I previously thought.
I think if we look at population density in particular, that should be pretty apparent.
Well, let's see. These elves over here have fairly high population because they're in those coastal provinces.
I think you'd have to unpause the game for like 3 months because it may be initializing races wrong, and they may have to starve to death.
Ah, okay, all right. We'll unpause here for a brief moment. I want to unpause till I got to the rest of the map modes, but there are only a couple more anyway, and it doesn't really matter. The rest of them aren't really going to be changed much by unpausing. So I'll go to the end of March, and then we can repause, which actually will allow me to show other map modes. Okay, yes, now we can see the population. Yes, they have very conveniently starved to death now. So,
Yeah, sorry, else.
yep, okay, bye bye, elves. Now we show races. Ah, yes, we can see the human area has the higher population, while the elf area does not.
Yeah, and because of that population difference, they need to be better at certain things to not get completely steamrolled.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, yeah, lots of little things that I mean, I've only had this build for a couple hours anyway, so there are lots of little things like that that I just wouldn't have noticed yet because I haven't, toyed with it enough. Anyway, we also have a culture map mode. Right now, it's just aesthetic. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just this color, nothing more. But of course,
Yeah,
in the
I have
future,
to interject again. So cultures have assigned. I'm not sure what to call it yet. It's not in the UI partially because I haven't found a good name for it. But cultures have something of a military doctrine of sorts, which controls the ratios of different troops they recruit when AI builds armies and fields troops to fight on battles. And those ratios are defined per culture. So if you let the game run and you measured an average distribution of, for example, archers to light infantry in different cultures, they would vary depending on that culture.
oh, I never noticed that. Okay. Yeah, I would definitely then have some kind of, I mean, I don't know where it would be in the UI, some kind of culture screen, which would include all of the information that tells you, this culture is somehow different from this other culture in these ways.
Yeah, that will definitely come.
Hmm. Okay. Well, also, there are phases, which, again, at the moment is pretty much just a color on a map.
Yeah, this is actually just a color. They don't do anything right now.
Yeah. All
They
right.
have a variable. They have a variable for ritual for different kinds of funeral rites. Some cultures can, have what's it called? Funeral fires. Others can have simple cemeteries and so on. But there isn't really any way to influence that right now. So
Okay. I also noticed that there are sometimes these one province cultures and religions. Is that a bug or is that intentional?
it's hard to say. I could keep it in. I could also fix it. I'm not sure what to do about it because it's probably not worth fixing, so to speak. I think it happens when two cultures quote unquote start in the very same place, and then one gets very unlucky with its expansion
Oh, I see.
because they can't fight each other. They can't fight each other in that initial expansion stage. So if it gets surrounded, it's sort of stuck.
Okay. Well, I don't really think it's a bad thing. It's just kind of something interesting I noticed. But I mean, it can stay like it is. In real life, there are cultures that are tiny, so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and let's see. Oh, technologies. Right. So right now, we're gonna say something.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. So right now, the whole world is kind of equal because the game just started. But over time, now the technologies take a while to appear. So it'll be maybe 10, 20, 30 in-game years before, there will be any um, realm in the game that has 4 or 5 technologies, a significant amount researched.
Yeah,
But
because we're in Stone Age, so progress is rather slow,
right,
especially since it's the beginning of the game. So things like we call it education endowment, but that may change. But basically, there is no resources put behind getting new technologies in these societies.
yeah, yeah, we'll show that when I get to gameplay. Yeah, about
Yeah,
how
yeah, sure.
technology is researched and so on. And then the last 2 new tabs are military and military target. So these are very similar. The target military just shows the desired size of the military, that the size of the military that is appropriate for the population that exists within a province. And then the military map mode shows the actual military size, which is usually the same as the target size, though not always.
Yeah, because if they aren't the same, then there's recruitment going on to get it to be the same.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't even really then have this target military map mode because it doesn't really give you much information that the
Oh,
military map
okay.
mode.
I could remove it. I could remove it
Well, I mean, you could just make
and
it a
just move
debug
it
one
into
or
that
something.
section. Yeah, yeah. We may want to answer some questions in the chat though, because
Oh
they've been
gosh,
piling up a bit.
I've totally forgotten about the chat. Yes, thank you. Thank you for noticing. Okay, let's see. I gotta scroll up here. Bri Sci Guy says, when I played the test build, I based my economy later on rating. Yes, we'll get to rating. Yes. Sunbro says new map looks great. New vegetation model is kind of awesome. Well, actually, Bri, there's not really a new vegetation model yet. Damien's not done with it. Let's see. DJ Coolmaster says hello. Having the culture affect AI behavior is a really good idea. Yes, I agree. I agree. Right now, there's not a whole lot for it to affect, but in the future, yes, it would be really cool. Sunbro says maybe you could call those racial doctrines ethos or something like that. Yeah, Crusader Kings 3 has something similar. They have cultures, and the cultures have what are they called? Traditions, and the traditions are
Yeah,
basically the uh, blocks of game mechanics, I guess, that are assigned to each culture that make them different and have different gameplay. Let's see. Bri Sci Guy asks, do technologies change anything? Yes, they do. They unlock buildings at the moment, which is important.
yes. Now there are also many more buildings to unlock now, so they're more significant because of that too. Like previously, there wasn't really much of a point to research technologies because there were just 3 of them. But now you can things like watchtowers, like ground stones which unlock better tools, wood cutting, and so on. So it kind of adds up together.
Yeah, right. So unlocking buildings basically just makes your whole realm, expand, makes it able to produce more, do more. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Pitiden says, "Oh hey, military is being implemented next version." Yep. Yes, it is. I mean, obviously not a military that's super complex as it is meant to be in the
Yeah,
later development of the game, but yes, an initial version.
baby steps,
That's right.
like always.
Let's see. Sidar Games asks 0.3 when? Well, you know,
when it
it'll be
when it's done, sadly.
yes, it'll come when it comes.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I'm pretty much done predicting release days. I just be posting these builds, and at some point we'll say, okay, that's enough. Let's release it.
yeah, yeah. At some point, you just have to kind of arbitrarily decide. Okay, I think this is sufficient development for us to say it's a new version of the game.
Yeah,
And let's see, last one. Terra Crafty says hello. Oh, sweet, we have provinces now. Yes, yes, we do. Okay.
we will have countries with provinces.
Yes, right. The realms. Okay, so I believe I went through all of the. No, I didn't. Right, we have realm income, local income. Ah, gosh, I probably should just go into gameplay before I do that. So I want to start as a realm that has a lot of income, this one, so that I can just, do more and more quickly. Uh, Carrying capacity of 38. Okay, yeah, we'll start with this one. So you click this button to take control of the country. And now,
And that's probably a good moment to also point out that you can select any country in the world, and you
yeah,
can very easily, what's it called? You can also jump out from a country very easily. There's a secondary button that lets you change the country in the
right.
bottom right corner.
Yeah, I just did that. Yeah, to zoom out to
Oh
show
yeah,
people
sorry.
you're talking about.
There's a stream delay, so I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, you can see this little frog wearing a crown button here. This is funny. Allows me to pick any populated province in the world. So anyway, we'll go back to our guys that have money. That will let me do things. Oh, actually, let's look. What is the geography in this area I'm about to take over? Okay, lots of mountains. Oh, actually, that's kind of a really bad place. I don't want that.
Yeah, because
Uh,
the worse the mountains, the more difficult it is to raid. So I can imagine that being an issue when raiding is completely unbalanced.
all right. Well, I guess we'll pick somewhere else then. I just want to pick somewhere that has a pretty high population and a lot of money, so I can show people things. I can do
Yeah, makes
stuff.
sense.
All right. Let's see. Economy, realm income. I don't know. What are these low population places of such high income? Okay, 37, and the terrain here is flat. Okay, here's our guy.
So the AI, I'm not sure if the realm income shows absolute income or just the treasury change. If it only shows the treasury change, it could be underestimating income of large states because the AI does its very best to spend all the money it can.
Oh, okay. Well, then definitely
So
we want to
this,
have a map mode that shows us generally how
yeah, yeah,
wealthy.
yeah. And just pointing out, it could be a bug in the map mode if there is like it is a large discrepancy between expectation and what we observe.
Ah, okay. Well, in that case, I know there's one way we can get somebody that has the capacity to do things. That's with a high population. Okay, so this one over here has a
Yeah,
population of 76. That's pretty big. I'm going to take this one. All right, what do we got here? It looks like it's pretty flat. Yeah, there we go. Dry jungle, broadleaf woodland. Okay, great. So this is a pretty high carrying capacity. And now we need to go through all these tabs and to show all the UI before I then go into gameplay.
yeah,
So,
and one point to remind everyone, UI is temporary. I have no idea how to make a good UI for this game yet because we haven't played the full thing, so it's difficult to tell what needs to be in front of players' eyes first and foremost.
right, yes, the UI is temporary. And we also don't want to go through a lot of effort to make a fancy UI for game mechanics where we're not sure whether they're going to stay in the game or stay in this form. So we don't want
Yeah,
to, we
so
want to,
one of the reasons why there haven't so one of the reasons why there haven't been public updates in so long is because we've gone through like 5 economic models and 5 population models before settling on the current ones. And I think it would look very weird if we were just changing them every dev diary.
right, yeah. So the UI at the moment is a bit quirky, shall we say? But it functions once you find the buttons and then memorize where they are. But yeah, definitely at some point when things are more finalized, I think you'll probably just have to hire a UI designer. Some guy can just look at this
Yeah,
and say, okay,
we may
this is
hire
gonna go
we
here.
may yeah we may hire one of our Discord moderators because he's been studying this for the past 4 years. So that could be a fortunate coincidence.
Well, gotta get somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so I guess I'll go through all these tabs. You see there are quite a few. I'll check the chat room first, though. Wait, wait, wait. Where are you going? What screen? Come back, come back. Where do you think you're going? Okay, let's not have the camera fly away. Now I'll check the chat room. Do, 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 do.
You can lock the camera with F8.
Oh, I didn't know that. Very good.
Yeah, it's a feature Daemon requested for streaming, so it's
Ah,
probably useful here.
yeah. Oh, yeah, there are hotkeys. That's right. I can press spacebar now to unpause the game.
Yeah, yes, we had the technology from 20 years ago.
I know, amazing. It's like that SpongeBob SquarePants episode where Patrick smashes the piece of paper with the computer. All right, so CEDAR games. Will the first iteration of military be akin to the EU4 system? No.
Not at
That
all.
yeah, no, definitely not. Well, so the system where there an army is a little icon on the map that you click on, then you click on a province to move it to. No, absolutely not. No way.
It's so different that I wouldn't even compare it to EU4. I would compare it to King of Dragon Pass probably, but even that isn't correct because King of Dragon Pass didn't have information lag and it didn't have travel times.
Right, yeah. I hesitate to compare this game to the Paradox Grand Strategy games too much because I think that sets people's expectations the wrong way.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, Sunbro says, I see provinces are quite tightly packed. How many would you say there are in an average world?
Um, I don't want to lie because I honestly don't remember. It's more than 1,000. It's less than 10,000. I think it's around the same density as EU4, but I'm not 100% sure because I was fiddling with that number a lot and I'm not completely certain what it ended up being. I think it's high enough for our purposes, however.
So it's probably in the realm of a couple thousand.
Yes, yes. It's definitely more than 1,000.
All right. Let's see. Mocha 2007 says Pog. Thank you for your contribution. Personally, I prefer Vic 2 armies as they are dependent on the goods they receive and receive serious attrition when they advance into hostile territories. Um, yes, Cedar, but again, the armies are not going to be these sort of things that you click on that move from province to province. It's just that's not at all how it's going to work.
Yeah, the UI for it is temporary, but the idea of how it works is already in there, so to speak.
Yes, and we'll get to that. Military is the last tab on the UI here, but I'll show the people, when it comes. Okay, Mocha 2007 says, Jesus, the game has changed a lot since last time I played. Yes. Yes, it has. Yeah, there hasn't been a public release in about a year, right? Last December, I think it was, or November.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Alrighty. And Pitiden. No, hello, Pitiden. Who, now that military is implemented in the test build, I could probably make my Dwarf Fortress import take military into account too. Well, see about that. Cedar. Will the control of armies be then redelegated to commanders? Will the absolute be able to direct? Okay, so actually, I'm just not even going to answer any military questions right now because we can just show you how the military works at the moment, and that'll probably answer a bunch of the questions you have. So we'll just hold off on answering military questions until we get to that part of the stream. All right. So anyway, I think that's everything. I'll go back to the game. All right. So here we have our province, and oh yes, right. So the name of the country we're playing is Illand, and the name of the province is Nropal. And Calandil assures me that those are not just random assemblages of letters, but actually there are linguistic rules that that determine how these names are generated.
I can explain. So there's an alphabet of sounds which are categorized in different groups. There are consonants, there are vowels, there are liquid consonants, there are taps, and so on. And then the game, when it makes a new language, it takes a random subset of those pools, and then creates vowel types like you have in linguistic phonotactics. There can be there can be a CV vowel type or a CVL the vowel type, and using those, it then generates a Markov chain to quickly create these words from these composite vowels. So there is logic behind it, even if it looks like gibberish. And we've had some arguments over whether it looks like gibberish because it is gibberish, or whether it is gibberish because a random language would look like gibberish.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that there's this algorithm that has a kind of complex procedure to produce it, but ultimately it just, to me, it's all a gobbledygook. Pipum Hruholm, Laprazholm, Azilui. and so on. Oh yoy zaghold.
Yeah, it's not that
Goizrazroot.
well. It's not that much. It's not that much worse.
I mean, if my cat walking across my keyboard would produce something similar, I'm just being mean. That's all. All right.
Yeah, I just
So,
don't want to spend. Yeah, sorry. Okay, let's move on.
okay, yeah. So I was going to go to these tabs. General, you see carrying capacity, hydration. Now, again, this UI is not final, so a lot of this stuff will be rearranged someday when the UI is more final. So the number of humans
Mm-hmm.
that can survive with natural water resources, which presumably does not include the ocean, right? Because it's saltwater, or does it?
It, salt water isn't included now.
It is not included.
Well, it shouldn't be. If it is, it's a bug, and we'll probably find out about it at some point because it should be quite obvious. There is a minimum value, so if you're looking at C provinces and C5, that's because there is a lower cap on it. Because if there wasn't one, it'd be difficult to ensure numeric stability when very small provinces are being colonized. And I didn't want to write a ton of conditions for colonization AI just to account for that single province in every world that has just one that has just one tile. It would slow things too much for too little benefit. So instead, there is this minimum value, and if for some reason hydration is significantly is below that value, we just raise it up to 5.
Right. So that's why all of these ocean tiles have hydration of 5.
Yes, but if you look at all the other tiles which have above 5 hydration, there is no impact on those.
Yep, I
So
got it.
if you look at all the other provinces which have more than 5 hydration, there is no impact on those because we take the maximum of two values.
Okay, good to know.
Because this way we don't need to check if a single person is capable of colonizing a province. Because even if for some reason the game generates a province that is too small to support a single person with hydration, there would still be enough water for the decision to not kill them, and that's desirable. So we can remove one if check from every single call, every single logic call similar to colonization.
You see that's exactly the kind of behind the scenes programming explanation that I'm really glad you provide so I can understand why things are the way they are. Because if I'm just a player playing the game and I see the 5 there, I have no understanding why is it 5? Why that doesn't make sense to me. Why is it that way? But now I know. All right, so local resources. Yeah, we have to go into the resources tab to see. Oh, I do have resources. I have stone. I don't think that's one of the useful ones at the moment. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's one of those we want to remove and change.
Okay. Let's see. Movement cost in hours. Yeah, that's tied to the military stuff we'll get to later. Mood. That is the happiness of the population. That is a game mechanic we'll get to a little bit later. It at the moment it's important for determining the voluntary contributions, which is your. It's one of the two sources of income you can have. That and rating at the moment.
Yeah. If it gets too low, it can also cause your population to take action against you. If it does, you will get a special event, which we'll get to later, I guess. But yeah,
Well, there are no events right now, are there?
there are, but you will need to intentionally tank your mood to a very low value to trigger it because it's sort of. I don't know if you remember, we talked about that event in our DMs where there was a revolution of sorts brewing in your country.
Yeah, yeah. But what I mean is in this build of the game.
Yeah, that event is in this build. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I have not seen any events at all in all my playtesting this build.
Yeah, there's only that single one for when your mood is too low. So we could probably trigger that at some point intentionally.
Oh, okay.
With
Yeah,
the
that'd be the first time I'd see it. Okay, cool. Um, let's see. Latitude, longitude, size. That's pretty self-explanatory. Spotting and hiding space. Those two are important for military stuff, which again we have to get to later. But basically, the higher the spotting power is, the more likely raiders are to be seen.
Yes. Like
And
the
if
more
raiders,
hiding space there is, the more likely they are to be hidden.
right. So a raid is much more likely to fail if spotting is high and hiding space is low.
Yes. And this will also be a way for us to differentiate between different races, because, for example, harpies could have special buildings for, flying scouts that could boost this spotting to insane values.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess hiding space, different races would hide in different places differently, right? So not all races would just be in the grass.
That is the plan, but it doesn't work that way right now. Right
Right,
now,
yeah.
it's the same for all races, but they have a sort of, I don't want to say innate hiding power. It's sort of like a multiplier to how the game calculates hiding space based on the racial distribution of soldiers in an army. So, for example, elves are much better at hiding in general, but eventually they only be better at hiding in forests.
I see. Okay. I again my sort of UI dream, I would have all of this stuff that is relevant, that is purely relevant for military matters, be just kind of together in one screen. Because the only reason I would care about spotting or hiding space is if I'm trying to do a raid, if I'm interested in military stuff. So I would put it with the other
Right,
military stuff.
right, yeah, that makes sense. These sort of decisions will be made when we have more information. Like, I didn't really know if I'd be looking at this often before I made it. Now that it's here, it's kind of obvious in the hindsight. So yeah, we'll reorganize the UI when time comes to it.
Right. Okay. Let's see. I will look at the chat room now because I know this that we are showing a whole lot, so I better check back pretty quickly. Frequently, I mean. Shout out to the country just called On. I'm not sure what that means, Terra Crafty. Bri says, yeah, I think random names are always going to sound like gibberish. I mean, they don't have to, but they certainly can. Of course, now you could hear a real life language that you've never heard before that you don't recognize, and it'll sound like gibberish too, if it's just totally foreign to you. Neuropol almost sounds like the name of some random Black Sea city. Yeah, maybe. You get used to them. Okay, let's see. Cedar asks, "What is the current thing in the implementation of technology?" Yeah, we'll get to technology. Yeah, it is a part of the game right now. Yeah, I think I'll just skip that comment for the moment, and then we can come back to it once we get to the technology part. Terra Crafty suggests putting a cap on name lengths to make them more readable.
Uh, there is a cap on name lengths, but it's probably too high because I'm Polish and longer names don't bother me as much. It's 4 syllables plus an ending syllable, so up to 5.
And can the names consist of multiple words, or must they all be one word?
They all must be one word, but that's a good suggestion. I'll add that.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of
Yeah,
places that have multiple words, like
yeah,
New York or the Netherlands.
yeah. That's a good point. That could probably also break up those longer names and make them more readable to people who don't speak languages with very long words.
Sure. And also, lots of names include adjectives like Great Britain,
Yeah, yeah.
South Africa, United States, so on. So yeah,
Point
that's.
taken. We'll do.
I think that's probably a good idea to split them, to have the possibility to split them into multiple words. Yeah, we'll talk about technology later. Is the city view unchanged from previous builds? There is no city view at the moment.
Yeah, we had a long, I guess, argument with Damon over it. I've been writing a dev diary about it. The city view will probably return in a month or two when we agree on how we want to approach it. It will probably be in an isometric view only. So we had those arguments with Solitarian. I mean, maybe not arguments, but discussions with Solitarian some months ago about locking the camera view in the 3D view, right? Remember that?
I do, yes.
So basically we would be locking the camera to an isometric view like that you have in Emir or in Civilization, and be rolling with that instead of a fully free movement 3D world.
Yeah, I mean that could work. It just depends on how it's implemented. That might make the art easier to make for it. I don't know.
Not really easier. I don't think it make a difference in that regard now.
Oh, well, I don't know. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Cedar says, "Are the spotting and hiding space modifiers reflected in the city view?" Well, I mean, we don't have city view right now, so the answer is, no, I guess. But
Well, when it's back, it wouldn't be reflected in it because it would be limited to a small subset of the province, the same way it is in Emir or in. I actually don't have a second example. I guess like in Civilizations 3 City View.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I
I
also I also am also not sure if I would call them modifiers because that evokes memories of Paradox games where modifiers are sort of things you more or less stack from various sources. And these spotting and hiding space are calculated from simulations variables. They don't just come up from out of nowhere. There is hiding space from tiles in the province and from the kinds of landscape in the province. And the spotting comes from population in the province and from the buildings in the settlements in the province.
Right, yeah. And I think, I mean, the fact that he used the word modifier to refer to it just shows the sort of expectations that are sort of unconsciously set up by even invoking paradox or EU4 or, whatever.
Yeah, or he could just not mean that at all, and I could be reading too much into it.
Oh, yeah, that also possible. All right, anyway, I think I'll go back to the game now. Okay, so that's a general tab. Now we go to ecology. This one's pretty self-explanatory. You got local carrying capacity. That's of the tile, right? We saw that map mode earlier. And then this shows you the biome, right? You can click here to see the biomes. So this province has three biomes. There's woody scrubland, broadleaf woodland, and dry jungle.
um,
Yes?
did you say three biomes?
Yeah?
Oh, I see. No, sorry, stream delay again. Never mind.
Okay, good. Well, anyway, you can see the proportions of the different kinds of plants on the different tiles. Presumably, these tiles here are different because they're higher elevation. We'd be able to see that in the geology tab, right? Elevation 198. Yeah, yeah, they're higher elevation. So they're, huh. These are all 198. They're all exactly the same.
So I don't know if you remember. Um, After we loaded words from 0.2, the elevation values had to be truncated to 8 bits because there's only 255 shades of gray in a normal PNG in a normal 24-bit PNG file, and because of that, elevation can only jump in these chunks. That's why Damian is rewriting the word gen in Lua for us to have the intermediary values again.
Oh, wow. Okay. I had no idea about that. Interesting. Okay. So I guess that's why Damien's rework, well, one of the reasons why his rework is so important.
Yeah, that's also why I had that square word gen back in the day in Rust. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
all related in a way.
Right. Yeah, it all comes together. All right, so climate, again, that's Damien's thing. Probably just not worth looking into that right now. The
That's mine.
climate, the rain. Yeah, the flow is water flow, but again, right now that's not really implemented. It kind of is, but not really, so we'll just not worry about that.
It's implemented in the sense that it loads data from 0.2, which had this, uh, but it's not in here, so to speak. We have to rely on the old C++ C# code base to get these values, and we'd rather have it all in one place so that we don't need to deal with that extra complexity.
Right, yeah. So I guess this tab at the moment is just kind of placeholder is nothing. Yeah, the soil stuff too, same thing. It's just from zero point 0.2. It's being reworked by Damien. All right, so demographics. Let's see. Yeah, race. Yeah, high beaver. Very good. And then we already talked about culture and faith. Jobs, that's important. So right now everybody's unemployed because there are no buildings built. But when we build buildings, then people can work in those buildings and do things. And
Yeah, and unemployed is probably not the greatest of things because unemployed people in this game still work. They will try to do odd jobs. They will try to be beggars. They will try to forage in the wildlands. Um, so I'm not really sure what to call them. They're called unemployed now because I had no better idea. But they still provide some sort of economic input into the society.
oh, well, you should have asked me. I'm the word guy. I can give you a name. I mean, I can't think of one at the moment because we're doing a stream. But if I thought about it for 20 minutes, I looked up some words in the thesaurus. I can find you a name for those guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, because the partially called unemployed because if this was a very advanced society with like I don't know 500 to 1,000 pops in a province, uh, they would in fact be unemployed. They wouldn't be foraging in the wild because there would be no wildlands for them to forage in.
Well, maybe you could call them something like, I don't know, non-professionals or something. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'm sure there's a word we could use.
Yeah, yeah,
English is a big language. All right.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just how they started first.
And here on this pop screen, we can see that there is artwork. There's a lot more icon artwork in the game now, taken from a website. And
Which provides three icons for video game developers.
yes, yes, it does. And that's why all of these icons have kind of a consistent art style, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Although,
If anyone is interested, it's gameicons.com, I believe.
yeah, yeah. And then you also mentioned to me that you wanted to have some stuff be AI generated at some point. Is that still your intention?
Sorry?
Do you still intend the artwork for the game to be at least partially AI generated?
I was thinking about it. Right now, I'm leaning towards a yes because we could just ask the AI to draw us, approximate event event pictures, which would otherwise be quite difficult to source. So that's a great advantage of having it at hand.
Right, right. It just depends that because it's an AI, it's never going to be as good as the handmade stuff. But if all you need
Well,
is just some
yes,
kind of
yeah,
blurry background, then it's fine.
but I think it'd be better than reusing the same image over and over again. You
Oh
know,
yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah, I'm just saying it has its own sort of pluses and
it's not
minuses.
ideal, but it's not ideal, but it's probably the best option we have at this moment.
Right. Yeah, it's certainly a lot cheaper. Okay, we'll go to building. So this is important. Very, very important. This is one of the primary um, parts of the gameplay right now. This is what you're going to worry most about. So you build these buildings, and the people work in the buildings to do things, and the different buildings do different things, and you can unlock more buildings with technology. We'll get to that later. You see, for example, oh, oh, whoa, yes, very nice, Calendula. I see in the description there. Um, if we had flint, we could build flint middens, but we don't have them, and it says missing local resources. Now we can build hunting grounds, but I won't because now I know that meat is not sold in the market. There's a little bug there, so we're just not going to build those. I'm not actually sure what the communal fire does. Can you tell me?
Communal, yeah. So there's a problem with tooltips, as everyone can probably see. The UX and UI are really not where I'd like them to be. They're sort of lagging 20 years behind in quality. Communal Fire right now is not very useful. It adds something that I currently temporarily call administration, and it's a sort of not really a resource. It's sort of an abstract measure which describes your ability to control the society, as a sort of state entity.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that touches on an important point that I meant to talk about too. That the perspective of the player, the role of the player, I guess, in the game is similar to EU4. Damien wanted it to be a sort of spirit of a nation kind of thing, where you're not playing as any individual in the society. It's almost like a god game. You're just sort of above it, possessing one power over one polity.
Well, it's not really a god game per se because people still do. I mean, they still do everything on their own too. Like if you don't build anything, people will build the buildings themselves using their local wealth and so on. If you don't research anything, people will research themselves too. You're just sort of like this most dominant power in the government or the closest equivalent to a government in a society.
Yeah, well, when I said God game, maybe that was just the wrong word. I meant that there's a simulation happening, and you can interact with it if you so choose. And if you do, it changes, and you have control over a certain area of it, like an EU4. I don't know how else to describe it.
Like in EU4 and Victoria, and not like in CK2 or Imperator.
Right. Okay, so that's buildings. Oh,
If I can also interject for a second, I would also add that you are much less tightly coupled to your country. In EU4, it was a bit of a pain in the ass to change countries. I think it's a bit better in CK3 now, but in South it's extraordinarily easy to just jump in and out of countries. You have a special button for it, so
yeah,
it's
it's
often
actually
always.
it's the same in CK3. In CK3, you press escape,
Oh, I
click,
see. Mm-hmm.
click, click the switch character button, and then boom, you can switch, no
Right.
problem.
So in that sense, it is a bit of a goal game because you can easily change your point of view and play a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably use the words God game to describe it because that's how I play this kind of thing. I'm not really interested in guiding one country. I like just setting it up and watching it all play
I
out
see.
from
Yeah,
afar.
makes sense. I was just wary of the word because God game often implies a lot more than just being able to influence the simulation.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, well, anyway, I'm sure I've clarified what I meant by now. I will look at the chat room now. Let's see. Cedar asks, what's the justification behind the isometric view? Well, I mean, we don't really know if exactly what it's going to be yet. Probably we should save discussion of the city view until it actually has returned to the game.
Yeah, we can talk about it when it's in.
Right, yeah, because then we'll have something in front of us to look at and say, okay, here it is, here's how it works, here's what it looks like.
It will likely reduce a lot of the odd code because I don't like making the same thing twice. Uh, but it will definitely be a different perspective and a much less free moving one, so to speak. It could be
Right.
isometric. It could be bird's eye from like top down. I'm not sure what would be easiest, but will definitely not be a free flying camera. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. And then that would completely remove all the problems I had where, oh, I want to increase the view distance. I can't see far enough. Well, here with this, that would just
Yes.
be.
And then I spent a whole month trying to optimize the renderer. Oh my goodness, I want to forget about that.
Yes. Well, I thought it would be important at the time.
Yeah, just always this desire to optimize things and make them bigger and larger. I've been trying to avoid that because things change at this stage of development, even though we've been working on it for a while. It's sort of better now that these systems are in. They kind of make it easier to reason about what will come next because we can't really go and axe all of it now. There is literally thousands upon thousands of lines of simulation code for societies.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the nature of things. As you develop them, eventually the things that'll stay will stay, and the things that will go, and it'll all work out in the end. Alrighty, so let's see. Let's go back to the game. Infrastructure. Now, this infrastructure and buildings, these two tabs are kind of very closely linked. Probably I would tweak the UI a bit for it, but anyway, with infrastructure, you can see that at the moment, the amount of infrastructure in the province is zero because we just started the game. Nothing has been built. There's no investment in the province. Yeah, well, okay, 0.22. There's a teensy weensy bit of investment in the province, but not very much. But once we build buildings, then that infrastructure value will increase. Now you see needed infrastructure. That is the amount of infrastructure. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Calandial. That's the amount of infrastructure necessary to optimally utilize the resources of the province, right?
That's a good description. Yes, I think that's a good description. So every population, every pop, every building, and every tile improvement adds a little bit of that adds a little bit to this pool of needed infrastructure. And infrastructure is things like houses, small storehouses, roads, and so on that are needed to sort of organize the work of a society to make it efficient and so on. And you get it by, we call it investing because, again, I'm not good at naming things, people may have better ideas. But basically, you put money into a special pool, then over time, that pool trickles into infrastructure, and that infrastructure is then compared to what is needed to get a satisfaction value, which we then factor into multiple equations for things like productivity, for things like spotting, and so on.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Now, could the needed infrastructure value change depending on the population or the race or something? So that value needed infrastructure could be different at a different point in the game, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yes, it changes with population. It changes with population's age. It changes with buildings in the province.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's dynamic. That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm I was understanding it
Yeah.
properly. Okay. Um, yeah, infrastructure satisfaction just tells you, what percentage of this value has been reached. An
Yeah.
improvement tells you what building there is on this tile. Now, at the moment, there are two buildings that can be built on tiles: hunting grounds, gathering grounds. Right now, we have neither anywhere, so all these tiles will just say none. Okay, that's
Indeed.
That's that. Economy. Now, this is interesting. So, at the moment, we're very early in the game, so this isn't going to be as informative as it will be a little bit later. But you can see right now we're producing only two things: food and water. And you can see the value of these two things we're producing there in the tooltip. But consuming, we are healthcare, clothes, water, food, amenities, and these things that they're consuming that they are not producing then must be acquired from elsewhere. Now, is there trading in the game yet?
So I should probably point out that production involves only things that are being traded on the market. When pops can't acquire something on the market, they spend a fraction of their labor time acquiring goods on their own. But that process is much less time efficient than getting it from specialized workers. So, you know, more primitive societies can support as high of a standard of living because they have to use their labor in less efficient ways than those that have production of certain resources.
Oh, okay.
The
So
same goes for the supply balance. The supply balance you see below for things like liquor, amenities, and so on, that difference is being fulfilled to the best of the population's ability by spending a fraction of their time doing things on their own. If that makes sense.
yes, okay. So, like for example, clothes here. They they are trading for clothes. Rather, this means that they are producing their own clothes in a kind of unprofessional way, as opposed to purchasing them from tailors, from professional artisans producing
Yes,
clothes.
because salt needs to simulate commercial societies, obviously, but it also needs to simulate societies with huge masses of people who don't really participate as actively in the larger economy and who live in their own small insular societies. Things like farmers in small villages, things like hunter gatherers, which we have here, and so on.
Right. Okay. So they're making their own stuff basically. So the furniture.
Yes.
Okay. The furniture is being produced here in the province by the people living here.
Yes, and the important point is that they are spending a fraction of their labor doing this, which means they are not producing food using that remaining time because they are spending some of it doing other things.
I see. Okay. And then building buildings. would then open the possibility for someone, if I build a tailor's workshop, which is not in the game yet, but if it were, then there could be someone who makes clothes professionally, which means that no one else needs to make clothes, so they won't spend their time doing that. Instead, they'll spend their time doing other things. It'll indirectly increase the efficiency of all the other work because the workers don't have to spend their time making
Yes,
their own
exactly.
clothes.
Yes, exactly. And that's how you get the benefit of specializing societies. The more you can specialize, the more you increase productivity of other pops because they don't need to do the labor that you are doing better than they do. Assuming they can afford the traders, which is a different story. So
Yes,
it's not that simple because the economic model has been simplified greatly from what it used to be, but it's still quite complex and we may need to spend some more time on it later on once we get to markets and such.
right. Well, I mean, the simplification I think is acceptable given the scale of the game. For example, people might be able to afford a particular good, but they choose not to purchase it for some arbitrary reason. They don't like it. They have some kind of cultural taboo against it, whatever. But simulating all of that would be a bit much for the game. So we have a simpler system.
Um, I actually think it will be possible in principle at least. The problem is that when we tried that, it proved to be hopelessly difficult to balance, and the economics were dying or not producing things I wanted them to produce. I remember at some point I tried getting population to produce more cloths, so I made cloths much easier to produce. I just, instead of having pops produce 1 unit of cloths in an hour of labor, I made them produce 10. And that had the adverse effect. And when I realized that, I decided, okay, that's enough. Let's just simplify this and make it comprehensible, at least for developers.
Right, yeah. I think probably the best plan is to reduce it to a simple system that works pretty cleanly, and then you can slowly expand it from that basis that you know works.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a sensible solution too.
Okay, let's see. I'm sure with this talk of economics, we will have some comments in the chat room. Nope, we don't. Okay. Do people inherit traits from their parents?
Yesn't. Kind of not. It's very basic right now, inheritance and such things. So they could inherit some traits in the future. I've been trying to avoid that honestly because I think the amount of RAM needed to track it per person in the entire population would be a bit much for most traits. Like we have races and age brackets for a reason to sort of get that additional information.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because there'd be so many pops in the world, especially in the late game, tracking all that stuff for each one individually would be computationally difficult.
Yeah, we could have done this in Rust. I'm fairly certain, but now we are using a different language, which is a bit too slow for that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't think we would have even if we weren't using Lua because it's a lot of messy game logic that would be difficult to discern. I think, especially since the game has moved away from a free floating camera, but that's a different story. And yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Now we can go on to a topic that I'm sure people will be very interested in:
Oh,
technology.
before we go, I think we skimmed over local wealth, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. You are correct. Okay, so that's in map mode. There's local income and local wealth. So here's local income 0.73, not terribly high. That's because we're at the beginning of the game. And local wealth. So local wealth is the um, it is the sum of all of the wealth owned by all the people in the province, right?
Yes, if you've played Mayo and Taxes, I suppose I would compare it to that. Partially because Damian told me to re-implement some of his systems from Mayo, so from Mayo 2.0. So that's quite similar in practice.
Okay. And then local income is basically on average, how much the denizens of this province receive, how much they earn, how much they get per month, right?
Yes, yes, per month. And they use this pool for things like infrastructure investments, for things like education investments, for things like buildings or tile improvements.
Yes, yeah,
It can also be it can also be used by your enemies by being stolen.
right. Yes, we'll get to that. We'll get to rating. By the way, we're over an hour into the stream. We still have so much more left to talk about. All right, so technology. Now this is kind of a big deal. Um, so the way the technology system works, I guess I'll have to open the other menu here. Okay, well first you can see up here the current ability to research new technologies here at the top of the screen. This percentage is a rather useful number to have here in the UI. Basically, when this is under 100, you're losing technology. When it's over 100, you're gaining technology. Now, it's not quite how it works, but that's a rough simplification. So basically, you want this
Yeah,
number
that's
to
a,
be over 100.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay. And the way you do that is now you click on the flag, I guess, of your country up here, and then you go to Treasury. There's also the Education tab. We'll get to that. And with the Treasury tab, you can see your income. So I'm getting 7 per month with voluntary contributions, and that is dependent on mood or happiness.
It's
And of
quite a
course,
lot for this stage of the game.
so what?
That's quite a lot for this stage of the game.
Well, I picked this province because it has a really high population and a lot of
Oh, right,
resources.
I forgot. Yeah, yeah, makes sense, makes sense.
Yeah, so this province will be disproportionately wealthy. And then you can see here there's infrastructure investment, education investment, court investment. So the way you get technology is you would pump this up. You can increase it however much you want, and that is a monthly investment. So every month, let's see, last month I got 7, and if I were to say have a 4, simoleon $4 whatever investment in education, that would leave 3. And then I'm spending 2.25 on my military, which leaves only 0.75 left for other things. So basically, once all that's been calculated, you have your balance here at the bottom, which for this policy is not very good. And by increasing your education investment, you will then interact with this screen, which is the endowment. And again, these names are probably subject to change.
Yeah,
Uh,
we got them from mail because I didn't have much of a pointer from them as to how to name it.
right, yeah. I mean,
So
I,
I
I
just
think
put them
we,
from,
we, we can choose a better name later once we have a better understanding of
you know,
exactly how it's going to work in this game.
yeah, because endowment doesn't really make sense. I think for education, endowment not really makes sense as concepts when you have people playing with rocks and sticks
Yeah, for a hunter-gatherer
to describe
society,
them.
definitely education endowment is not the right way of phrasing it, but subject to change. Oops. Oh, I clicked away. Okay, so endowment. Right now, the endowment is very low, and the endowment we need is 15.2. And this percentage is calculated from these numbers here. So if we got up to, 14.8 or something like that, this would be very close to 100. It'd be 97, 98, whatever that is. And then if our endowment exceeds the endowment needed, then we have the capability to acquire technologies. And you can also, instead
And
of investing per month in the treasury screen here, on the education screen, you could just invest a lump sum all at once, which doesn't go into the endowment immediately, but instead it kind of will it'll trickle into it slowly over time. So your endowment will always go up slowly, or maybe piecemeal, I should say.
yeah, and we could also add that the higher your investment is, the less efficient it gets at being invested. So the more it's lost to things like corruption and so on. Because let's say you have a really good trading party and you return with a lot of wealth. You could spend all of that excess wealth on education investments, but if you do that in one lump sum, you would decrease the efficiency of that action. However, if you were just to sit on it in your treasury, you would also probably slowly lose it because there are things like theft and so on that may decrease it over time, especially if your treasury is very large. So you may be encouraged to sort of split your investments between endowment, between education, between buildings, between infrastructure, in a sort of more balanced way than putting everything towards a single thing. Because if you do, you would be losing more of the, you know, you'd be losing more to collateral waste, so to speak.
Right, right, and that a part of that is indicated here by this number here in the UI, education efficiency. Right, so if my endowment here went up to 50, it would be way, 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 way over what we need. It'd be so far over that the efficiency would be extremely low.
Sorry, could you repeat?
Um, this number here, education efficiency, is basically what you were just talking about. And so the endowment we need is 15.2. But if I got my endowment up to 50, hypothetically, then my efficiency would be very low, right? Because
I
the
think you are misunderstanding this number, or maybe I explained this wrong. Education efficiency here is the same number you have at the top of the screen.
oh, okay. I did not know that these two numbers were the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same number. Yeah.
Well, then they should probably be referred to by the same name.
Are they not? They should be.
Well, this says current ability to research new technologies. It doesn't say education efficiency.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, I've fixed that. It could be a good opportunity to come up with a better name for it too. So if
Yeah,
anyone has
well,
any idea, let me know.
yeah, we'll just need to make a list of all the things that we want to change the names of.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we can look at technology screen now that we've explained education. Oh, and also notice that when I want to look at technologies, I do not open the country view, I open the province view because technologies are stored per province, not per realm, per polity. This is important because a big part of Songs of the Eons' kind of founding idea was that technology and progress would not be just linear, always going up forever, but instead things could fluctuate. Things can go backwards, technology can be forgotten, empires can collapse. And so technologies are stored on the province level so that a polity can continue existing over hundreds of years, but it might lose all of its technology and go back to the Stone Age, even though at one time it was very advanced.
Yes. And you could also have small parts of the society falling behind or pulling ahead from others. And you could also have things like certain places specializing in metallurgy or different industries.
Yeah, I mean that's how technology often happens, where it's invented in one spot and then it spreads out from
Yes,
that spot. So there will be a certain area that is more technologically advanced in whatever way over the whole rest of the polity, and then the technology will be adopted elsewhere as it is deemed useful.
yeah. It's sort of like EU for institutions. If EU for
Yes,
institutions could be more easily quote unquote started in multiple places.
right, right, yeah. So anyway, there are quite a few technologies in the game now. I think it's seven or eight thereabouts. There are enough technologies for the different places of the world to develop slightly differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you let the simulation run for 30, 40 years, you'll find that there are some areas that have a lot of technology and some areas that have almost none at all.
I think it's also worth pointing out that you don't have direct control over this. You can't just tell them to research groundstone tools, or you can't just tell them to research vegetable tanning. These things just will be researched on their own, and you can only give it very general guidance.
Right, yeah. So if your ability to research technologies is over 100, that means you have the capacity to get more technology. And that means that depending on the situation where you are, one of the available technologies will be researched.
Yes, and the choice depends on things like whether your people are doing the correct jobs, whether you have the correct materials, whether you are in the correct situation. So, for example, once we have once we have, for example, dam building, you wouldn't be able to research it if you were on a river, right? Because there is no dam to be built in a desert. In a desert.
Right? Or here right now, cold working of meteoric iron. Well, there is no cold working of iron if you don't have any iron,
Yeah,
and that's a resource that you can see in the yeah, it's one of these. I don't know, whichever in the map mode there. Now these
yeah.
names here, I'm really unimpressed by selecting and cutting choice stones. That's I think you can come up with something better than that.
You can blame canals for this. I didn't choose this.
Yeah, I'll definitely have some suggestions later. I think for different names. In any
Yeah, I
case,
think it also it, on the subject of technologies, I'd also add that even though you don't have direct control over what is researched, you still have indirect control because if you, for example, had a small population of blacksmiths, in the future you'd be able to get more technologies in metallurgy and weaponry by giving them various, privileges and putting them ahead of the society as far as access to resources goes.
right? Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
if you,
completely independent of the player, so it's not you can influence it,
yeah,
but it's not like in Paradox games where you just click the one you want and you get it.
yeah. In a way, it's sort of similar to Emir, if Emir had automatic technology research. If you're familiar with that game.
Oh yeah, yeah. I played Emir a lot. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, they do have those requirements for resources. They do have those requirements for knowledge pools. They even have those requirements for different types of pops doing the labor, but they don't have this automatic system, which happens sort of without your direct control. Because we don't want the player to be able to just spearhead towards a single technology every single time, like they would in most strategy games.
Right, like in Civilization. Yeah, exactly. And this way also, it makes the technology a lot more what's the word, flavorful, I guess, and that it's bound to your people, your land, your playthrough, the actions that you've taken, what's happening in your world.
Yeah, or at least that's the idea.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's a lot more. It's a lot more engrossing, I guess, in the game. At least for me, I don't know. Oh
So
yeah,
I guess we answer Cedar's questions on technology?
yeah. I was just
We
about to
had
check the
some.
chat room again because I
Oh
assumed
yeah.
we have a lot of people. Let's see. Trying to. Okay. What is the current implementation of technology? I've never seen any grand strategy game which had even a decent take on it. The usual problem is that the system is unengaging, player directed, and suffers from stale metas. Well, I think we just answered all that. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so we'll
Yeah, I
scroll.
guess unless they have suggestions for what could be changed or bettered.
Yeah, well, I assume that if people had strong feelings about the matter, they would type them in the chat room.
Yeah.
And so if people aren't saying very much, I assume they're okay with what we've discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Okie doke. So, Dragon says, I remember you said you're not making genetic system. Yeah, we talked about that. Sunburst says, will pops build infrastructure on their own? Yes. Yes, they will.
They do.
Yes, that is a part of infrastructure investment, right? So, you see infrastructure investment is 0.22, but I've done nothing. And there are no buildings. Well, that's just the people. They've done that. And if I were to just click unpause here and touch nothing and let the game go by itself, they would do their own thing. They would build, they would harvest, they would develop on their own. I don't have to direct them to do everything.
Granted that you probably should because they are voluntarily giving you a large chunk of their earnings because you're a hunter-gathering tribe. So
Yes,
it
well,
wouldn't be the most efficient course of action, but you could.
right. The game assumes that the player will be doing something.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Tile decisions. Oh yeah, we'll get to that later. Province decision. Oh, I was
So
thinking province decisions. Yeah,
I
there are no
guess you
tile
could.
decisions right now.
I guess you could gift what they give you back to them with the gift decision. So maybe we could do nothing. I wonder how that play out.
You'd probably just be conquered as soon as that's in the game.
Sorry.
You would probably just be conquered by your neighbors as soon as that's in the game.
Okay. Okay. Maybe that's well details.
Unless, of course, they can do military stuff by themselves too. All right, so this is the province decisions screen. It's very important. It is one of the two sources of income for you. There are voluntary contributions based on the happiness of your people and their wealth, and there is rating. Uh, oh, why is there no rating? Oh, because I have the military. That's
I,
right. Okay. Well, anyway, once I have a military, I go to the province decision screen, and there will be a button here that says raid province, and I will send a raiding party to get money from them, and that's very important. You can do that and get a lot of money from it if you have wealthy neighbors who you can pilfer from.
I think the problem right now is that the AI sent the raiding party before you took control
Oh,
because it says you have five. It says you have 5 warriors, but you don't have any in the province.
where where does it say I have 5 warriors? I don't see that.
At the top of the screen, the rightmost icon.
I gotcha. Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, yeah, then they're just elsewhere. Huh. Then you should probably have some kind of UI. Maybe that'd be in the tooltip here. It tells you where your soldiers are at the moment.
I'd like to avoid telling you where they are, but we could have something like the last known position.
Or maybe the last task they were given. So you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
oh,
Probably in the
okay.
probably in the probably as a tab in the realm view,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the treasury is.
It would just tell you your warriors were sent to this province on this date.
Yeah, yeah,
So you have an idea of, okay, where kind of generally in the world are my guys?
yeah, and then maybe expected return time or something like that.
Yes, yeah, that too. Let's see. I was going to go through these tabs as well. So I talked about the treasury already. Stockpiles, pretty self-explanatory. Administration is kind of nothing at the moment. Does court do anything right now?
Uh, I'm not sure, but I'm not certain. It could be because I remember there were some events I asked you to help me write. And that's where interacting with is valuable. But I'm not sure if I put them in.
I don't think you did. I've not seen any events at all in this build, so I think probably the court just does nothing right now.
Okay, yeah, we can assume that. So
Well, if it does do something, it doesn't do very much. I can put it that way.
the main idea is that it will influence how your people and people abroad perceive your regime. I mean your realm. So it will be relatively important to at least keep the appearances of a wealthy state, and
Yeah,
that's where you'd be doing it.
probably the name court would need to be maybe changed. I don't know if court is quite the right word, particularly for.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, every variable name, every bit of the UI is subject to change. So if anyone has better ideas as to what to call things or where to put them, I'm always open to them.
Right. Okay, so here on the market tab, this is useful actually. I guess this is where Bri discovered that meat was not being sold. So
Yeah,
here
that's where.
you can see the relative value of items on the market. So if you were to want to acquire a piece of furniture, it would require 518 wealth. And of course, the
Yes,
wealth.
because it'd be asking. Yes, because you'd be basically sourcing it from people who have no idea what they're doing and have better things to do than make furniture.
And probably acquiring materials for it would be a bit difficult too because there are no, normal suppliers who
Yeah.
are prepared to provide the materials. And
Yes. So I talked about it at some point, but Salt uses some ideas from labor theory of value, wherein prices are sort of calculated by cascading down the, I guess you could call it craft tree, and seeing how many work hours would be necessary to create something locally, to get a sort of baseline price, which can then be used to get the final price.
Yeah, yeah. Like we talked about earlier, the sort of simplified economic system, right, makes it more manageable for this computer game to calculate.
Mostly
Uh,
for me to understand what's going on, to be honest.
well, yeah, I suppose, yeah, for the player too.
Yeah, because the computer was running fine with what we had a few months ago. It was just very clunky to work with because I have a suspicion that there is no video game with an economic system that is playable and engaging that isn't putting a lot of smokes and mirrors in front of players' face. And I did look into a lot of games that seemed like they were doing something special and unique, but whenever I put them under heavy scrutiny, I always end up concluding that they're just soaping our eyes. So I kind of gave up and decided to sort of soap our eyes too, but do it in a way that I personally find, you know, more acceptable, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, economics sounds like the sort of thing that would be very straightforward to gamify, but it's just so complex that once you start, it just becomes overwhelming, and you have to simplify it because it's just
There is
impossible to
this
manage.
study. There is this study where they asked a bunch of stock investors and economists to try to differentiate between a completely randomly moving chart and a stock price chart, and they weren't able to. So, if people who spend their entire lives analyzing something can't really tell it apart from random noise, I think it's a good indicator that if you do it too realistically, it will become sort of hopelessly unpredictable. Which may sound engaging, but if it's truly hopelessly unpredictable, it could as well be random noise.
Exactly, right. And also, you could have an economic model that's super complex and super realistic, but from the player's perspective, it's just it makes no sense. He doesn't understand why things are happening. He can't do anything, and it's just really frustrating.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, it does.
We did have some discussions in the testing channel of that nature with the previous model, which was one of the reasons why I started simplifying it over time. Because if I can't explain how a thing works to the player, when I have their ear and I can talk to them in real time, then something is wrong, and I think it should be dialed down a bit.
Right.
That
So
being
anyway,
said, I still think it's the most complex economic model in any grand strategy. So
well, it's not done
it's
yet, you
certainly
know.
not it's certainly not dumbed down. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, its state is a mixture of what you want the game to be, but also a kind of a realistic paring down based on playability and computational
Yeah,
capability.
yeah,
Anyway, you can see here at the market screen that things are very expensive. Well, also I should note that the values here, the money, it's not dollars. There are no coins. There's no official currency. This is just kind of an abstract wealth. Whatever wealth might be. It could be piles of food. It could be shiny rocks. Whatever.
yeah. It's resources that take an X amount of work hours to produce using certain methods, so to speak. That's a very abstract way of putting it, and I think that'd be confusing, which is why we show it as a, you know, using a money symbol.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, a currency symbol.
Once the game is developed enough that it has economies that have officially minted coins, currency, then probably a value like that would mean a lot more. It'd be a lot more direct, I suppose, of what people would expect it to be.
Right. Yeah, we can look into that. One worry of mine is that if we do it, people would be confused by having to do currency conversions between countries. But yeah, maybe we could deal with that somehow. I'm not sure. We can get to it when it comes.
Right. Or I mean, maybe the money value could always look like this, but then maybe you could put your mouse over the value, and there'd be a tooltip that says, okay, this wealth is comprised of the following things, and it tells you all the stuff that adds up to equal that wealth.
Okay, that sounds sensible. Yeah.
And so that way, a particular trader might have coins from 5 or 6 different city states that he travels through, and the cumulative value of all those coins could then be shown in the UI. Here's this one number that's based off all these others.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That,
that's the market. Education research, we already went through. Decisions, there's nothing there. Realm decisions, nothing there. Okay, so now I think we're ready to unpause. Woo!
but what about
First,
pop growth?
well, I gotta check chat first. Let's see here. Sunbro says, I like the sort of emergent approach to technology. I could see myself trying to attract artisans, peasants, etc., in an attempt to kickstart whatever institutions they may bring. Yes? Yes. Okay, so we will unpause, and I can unpause without clicking up here because now we have the space bar. It's the future, man. It's crazy. So you can
These
see
inner times.
that some time has passed, and my treasury went up. And if I go to the treasury screen, you can see that voluntary contributions was 7.3, infrastructure investment 0.32, education was 4, court is 0, military is still 0. That is kind of weird. And so ultimately went up by about 3. Why is my military still 0? That's weird. My
I think that's because your military is on campaign, so to speak.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
think I think it doesn't take it into account when it's not in the barracks. I think I'll have to fix that. That sounds like something that shouldn't be happening.
yeah. I mean, they were gone for a long time. That here's July, and they were sent away in March. Maybe it's because my
That could.
province is so big.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, anyway,
There you go.
here now that my military's back, you can see what military I have. It's 4 archers, 1 spearman, presumably determined by the culture, like you talked about earlier. And I can then go to the province decision screen for all of my neighbors. I can only raid my neighbors at the moment, and I can choose one of them to raid, and that would be a source of money. And if I want to decide which one should I raid, I can go to this screen, the economy screen, to see local wealth. Which one has the highest local wealth? So, for example, these guys here and these guys here, super poor. I don't want to raid them. They don't have any money. There's nothing to take. 1.6, that's better. 1.95, 2.49. There's the winner. But we need to check. Do they have a military? No, they do not. So they cannot defend themselves against my raid. However, even if my raid cannot be militarily defeated, it can be thwarted in that they can see it. They can spot it coming, which is why spotting is here. However, their spotting is only 19, which is pretty low. Hiding space is pretty high. So this raid is very likely to be successful. So I'll click covert raid and select. I would also, in the UI here in this box, tell the player approximately how much time this will require, because otherwise I don't see that until I actually send them out, and then I see, oh, okay, they'll arrive in 60 days.
Um, yeah, that's a reasonable suggestion. You can sort of see it if you go to the general tab. I think if you go to the
uh,
general tab, there should be a travel time cost or something like that,
yeah,
which
movement
is
costs.
expressed in hours.
I think
Sorry.
probably that it's taking 60 days to go there because my province is so huge, it has a high movement cost. If I were playing as one of
Yeah,
these smaller provinces, I mean, I might be able to go over here in 20 days and come back, so the whole thing would be 40 days as opposed to 121 days.
yeah. You need to pathfind through both your province and then their province. So if you are in a very large province, that does sort of hinder you in that your troops have to move longer before they get to the border.
Right. All right. So anyway, we can keep going. Infrastructure.
But yeah, I think I'd like to add here that you can see you don't know how the engagement will go or what will happen until you get people back coming to the camp, coming back to your province, which is very different, I think, from how it works in most video games. Because right now they are gone. Like you can't really do anything about them because you'd have to send someone after them to send them a message, but there's no UI for this right now. So they are sort of on their own, and you'll only hear about what has occurred when they get back to you.
Right. Yeah, that's the King of Dragon Pass influence there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was going to mention, so you can see here, there's a gathering grounds on this tile, but I didn't build it because the pups built it themselves. And I
Okay,
pause
now
now because I have 21.49 treasury, which means I have enough money to build something. So I'll go to carrying capacity per tile, and I'll pick a tile that has a fairly high carrying capacity, like this one, and I will then build gathering grounds. There we go. The improvement is always instantly complete. I assume in the future there'll be, construction time.
yeah. So I could probably fix it now because there is a system to sort of quote unquote defer actions in time, which is also used for military. We didn't have it before, so I sort of just made the simplest thing that works. I could probably make building happen over time now. I'm not sure what I will. It sounds like something relatively low priority for now, because I'd rather work on legal systems, on actual conquests, on diplomacy, things like that.
Whoa. Okay. Our raid attempt succeeded. Our warriors brought home zero point zero 0.01 simoleons worth of loot, and 5 people died. I lost all of my warriors in that raid.
So I guess you can use battles, now we know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, before the stream, we were having a bit of a problem and we weren't sure whether the raids are working properly. Yeah, they definitely are.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I think what happened was they recruited warriors in the meantime before my warriors got there. I'm not sure why I lost all 5 of my guys though. I've never
You
seen that
also
happen.
could have gotten you also could have gotten outmaneuvered. Beavers are very bad at hiding because they are clumsy. So defenders have a larger advantage when beavers are attacking.
I mean, but I'm attacking other beavers though.
Yes, but they can see you ahead of time and can prepare for with traps or outmaneuver you.
Hmm. Well, I think definitely, probably then there should be some indication of that in the UI saying, here is the likelihood of you being spotted in your raid.
As I mentioned, the UI is really bad. Like
Yeah.
the UI is probably the worst part of the game right now, and we really need to improve it. But I don't really have that much of an idea for it right now. I mean, there's low hanging fruit that we already know will be needed, like moving spotting and hiding place to the military screen, or having indications of likelihoods of different occurrences before you click the buttons. But that's just not in yet. I need to add it.
Right. So I guess I won't be doing any raiding as the beavers because they're just going to die and I don't really see the point. But the good news
We
is
could
that
try.
because, say
Sorry.
what?
We could try with a single soldier. Maybe it was just a fluke.
Oh yeah, maybe, yeah, one soldier would be, whoops, a lot more
But I
difficult to
think
fight.
beavers. Okay, did we speak about hydration?
I don't believe we did, no. Or you
Oh,
talked about there's a minimum value of 5, I remember.
oh yeah, yeah. I was thinking improvative buildings, which I think we skimmed over.
Yeah, I just built a water carrier actually. Um, yeah, you can talk about that.
Yeah, so basically the hydration values from before can be improved with buildings like water carriers or wells, which can extend the carrying capacity as far as water goes in a province.
Right.
It won't be needed. It probably won't be needed here because we are in the tropics, and I think we are in a jungle or a savanna. So we're getting quite a bit of rain naturally, and there is enough water resources locally.
Yeah, yeah,
And
but
someone got a question in the chat.
there's a question in the chat. Okay, I will look. Dragon says, a while ago, someone on Discord suggested having subtle detail rendered on the global map when zoomed close enough based on the city view height maps. Calandale, you seem interested. Have you thought about it since?
Yes, I did, and I don't think we'll have it anytime soon because it's too much work for the bank, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that's
I could probably do it in a week or two, but then that's a week or two I don't spend working on things that I think would be more interesting to most people.
right. Yeah,
Because I think we've made quite a bit of progress towards having a game as opposed to a word generator with a vision of a game. So I'd really like to focus on just getting a playable product out.
right. Yeah, something for people to play. I mean, right now the game is more gameplay than ever before. I can do things. I can raid. I can build. There's something to do. Finally. Um,
Yeah, we're almost at the level of you two, I guess.
Woohoo! I wanted to note that the local wealth of my neighbors has increased quite a lot. I don't think anybody is raiding anybody over here. I think the beavers are just really bad at raiding.
That could be the case. I could have, as I said, it's not balanced well. I could have made them too bad at raiding. That's
Yeah,
definitely possible.
I'll send one guy to raid. I think if you just show in the UI what the success chance is and what the factors involved are, we would all be able to see. Oh yeah, okay, there we go. That's not balanced very well, or whatever.
Yeah, I want to avoid giving explicit chances because I think it really cheapens the experience. But maybe we could have something like a second screen in which your advisors could tell you if they think it's a good or bad, if they think it's a good or bad idea or something like that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think just giving a simple number like they do in EU3 would make it much more prone to min maxing and much more frustrating when it fails.
yes, I think so too. But I just want there to be at least some indication, so I'm
Yeah,
not just completely blind.
yeah, you're right.
But we can see here my raid was successful. I got 1.5 simoleons. 0 people died.
That's
So
quite a bit, isn't it?
yeah, I guess it is because that there were too many beavers. So I'll send my one guy down to this province where the
Speaking
others
of, I
died.
forgot. Actually,
And
never mind. I was gonna say something, but I just realized there isn't UI for it yet.
oh, okay. Well, good thing I interrupted you then.
Yeah, yeah.
So build more gathering grounds, and you can see my ability to research technology is slowly going up. Now you see it's quite slow. We're in year two. I'm only at 22%.
Yeah, so the reason it's so slow is because when you invest, your investments go into investment pool, and then they slowly trickle out of it into the actual value, which means there's a sort of buffer to certain actions you take. You can't really, you can't really conjure buildings out of thin air immediately, or you can't conjure education out of thin air immediately either. If you invest, you only reap the benefits of those investments later on down the line. There isn't like in EU4 where you could just click a button and get something instantly.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so your decisions are longer term. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, I'm hoping that this sort of buffering will make it much more immersive because I've personally always found it problematic in many Paradox games, not all of them, obviously, but many of them, wherein most actions, especially very important actions, were being taken by a click of a button, and the immediate immediate outcomes were visible immediately. I don't know if you played Imperator,
yes.
but
Yeah, I was
that
about
game
to
was
mention it. Yeah.
particularly that one was particularly bad early on with the mana system and so on. So this is something we're trying to consciously avoid and replace with these sorts of buffered player actions.
Yeah, yeah. Imperator was received really poorly just because of that. It was way too far in that paradox direction, even for paradox players.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, there's some question again, I think.
What,
Oh
these
no,
people asking questions.
yeah.
I'm busy doing in stream. How dare you?
I'm sorry. I guess it's not a question per se.
I'm just being silly. Let's see. Sunburst says, yeah, having advisors giving opinions sounds good. Yeah, like in King of Dragon Pass. Yes, I agree. That seems like a good idea. A non-numerical estimate? Yes, yes. Cut Up has things fairly well figured out, so it makes for a good inspiration for any strategy game trying to move away from paradox. Yep, exactly. Agreed.
Yeah, and it's also out to build on because they've never really expanded the formula, so to speak.
No, not really. They just kind of keep doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, yeah, this area of the world is definitely a lot wealthier than the areas of the world I was playing in before. Yeah, 3.51 per raid. That's pretty good. That's with three raiders. So I'll get one more raider. I don't want to get the archer because he's way too expensive. He might just die.
What different areas of the world are different? Who would have thought?
I know, crazy, right? I was also playing as humans last time.
Filthy humans. I
That's
think
right.
beavers are better at. I think beavers are better at crafting, so they're probably spending a smaller fraction of time making up for those missing goods. Or maybe we just have more people. That could be the case too.
I do have a lot of people. That's why I chose this polity. I don't think I've
Oh,
been
right,
rated once. We were
halfway
talking.
through. I said halfway through to technology.
Yes, yes. What I was saying was though that I don't think I have been rated. I, I'm not sure whether that's happening. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the stream. There is no notification when you are being rated, which is really bad. But yeah, that's the case. I have to fix that in the next build.
Yes. And so I want to show this too, the handout gifts interaction, but I need more money first to do that. I think you need 40 simoleons for it, space bucks, whatever we're calling them. Okay. Nope, I think it's
Looking
50.
at this, looking at this, I think I may want to initiate the game with 100% endowment, so that you don't have to have this initial wait for investment to catch up.
Well, it's just because there's not really anything else to do in the early game. Maybe don't start with 100% endowment. Wait to see, because maybe the player will be so busy doing other things in the early game that he won't even want to invest in the endowment because he'll have his money invested in other things.
Maybe, yeah. I guess it's been interesting in the game phase where when you can't really research text and are waiting for things to kick in, like a late Paleolithic kind of deal.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the beavers were always intended to start with more technology anyway, so they could start with full endowment while other races don't.
Yeah, because otherwise they would lose the technology, right? Yeah.
Yep. Well, I wanted
You may want
to.
to increase your. You may want to check if your infrastructure investment is maxed out because that would help your pop for the people efficient at production.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Infrastructure investment. So in my infrastructure investments at 31, and we need 141. So I will, let's see, increase my infrastructure investments up to 6. Yeah, these beavers are really wealthy. They make a lot of money compared to the humans, and especially the elves. The elves are also poor. Oh God, they can't do anything.
Yeah, elves will need a handicap to survive this early game stage. I'd like to give them some sort of early game fungal farming, which nobody else would have access to, and I think that would really even out the playing field, and make
Right.
them viable. Because right now elves are the game is really poorly balanced. I think elves would just straight up die if they were neighboring you.
Yeah. I think probably their specialization for forests should be so extreme that they can survive there even despite their other disadvantages.
You mean the defensive bonuses?
But yeah, for that, for example, or other things.
Yeah, yeah, true, true.
I think I ran out of money because yeah, I was spending too much. Do I have my warriors out raiding? I forget. I can't remember. I do not. Okay, let's see here. Who has lots of money I can steal? Yes. Oh man, the beavers, they're all so rich.
Discovering game unbalance in the first stream. God damn it.
Well, I don't know if it's imbalanced. I mean, maybe that's a good thing. Beavers should be that way, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway,
They don't even have their doubts right now, though.
I wanted to show people this happiness thing. I wanted to do the handout gifts interaction, but it keeps saying my conditions are not met.
Oh, that's because the costs depend on the population, and you have insane population.
Ah, I see.
So that's probably not gonna happen because I think it's like a year and a half worth of a pop's income for that decision. So that would be probably extremely costly.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, if I did that, it would increase the mood of the population, and if the mood is higher, they will uh, have more voluntary contributions.
Yeah, and it's very impactful. It's probably one of the more impactful ways to increase income in the early game, and it's probably gonna stay that way because they're giving it voluntarily. So
Yeah, and I
if
think
they're happy with
also
that,
having events be tied to that too makes a lot of sense.
there will be.
So,
I
so
thought there is one. Uh, maybe you could I don't know save. I mean not save, but like jump off the country, select a different country, and then ruin it with the offend local debug decision just to show the event.
okay, sure. Let's go to my neighbor I've been raiding and offend locals. People were greatly upset. Okay, so keep doing that.
Yeah, that's just a debug thing if it's not obvious.
Well, it says debug in the tooltip
You
there.
won't. Oh, right. Yeah, just a simulator. Sorry.
Okay, so probably -11 is good enough for that. So
In the meantime, are there any questions in chat? There aren't. Huh. I think you need to go to -10 if I remember correctly.
it's at -13.
Okay, let me check the event code. 1 second. 1 second.
Okay.
Event loader. People unhappy. Capital mood under 5. Is the game unpaused?
Say what?
Base probability 1/24. It should trigger mean time to happen is 2 years. So maybe that's why.
All right. Well, I'll just keep my hands off the keyboard, I suppose, and we'll just go. Well, these guys are pretty close to 100% of their ability to research new technology. But of course, they don't get another technology the second it reaches 100%, right? That's just the capacity.
Yeah, I think it's because they are much smaller, so the population is more efficient at giving. Well, efficient. The population is more willing to give up their time working for the common good, so they have more wealth per capita, so they can more easily invest it.
I don't think they do more wealth per capita,
Because
actually.
the larger the population, the less willing people are to give their income to you because they start seeing, splits in the society they live in. So a tiny, closely knit group may be more efficient as a realm than a larger, less tightly knit group.
Well, I wanted to show that the country I was just playing has a local wealth of about 60, while everybody else has local wealth of around 15, 10, 15 or so.
Oh, I think you're misunderstanding what I
Huh?
meant. When people produce wealth, they decide to split it between what they use themselves and what they give to the state, right?
Yeah.
And if the community is small, a larger fraction will go to the state at the same level of happiness, which means the realm will be able to invest it in a directed manner towards education.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Which
Um,
means a smaller society can indeed take up faster, so to speak, than a larger society. If the large society is so big that the internal conflicts decrease the willingness of pops to give contributions to the central leader, so to speak.
huh.
I'm not sure if if it makes sense to you.
Okay. I mean, I guess, yeah. I'd have to see it sort of working, or I guess not working. This
Yeah,
event
I think
is not happening.
okay. Then there could be a bug. I'm positive it's alien because I mean I'm moving her now. The mean time to happen is 2 years. The only condition is that your capital has moved under 5, which it clearly is. Huh,
Yeah.
odd.
More than 2 years have passed for sure. It's been about 4 years. So yeah, definitely a bug.
Yeah, I have to look into it.
Now, I guess while I've been gone, let's see how the AI has managed the realm I was managing before. Yeah, it's doing core investment. We don't like that. It's a waste of money. Um, okay, yeah, you can see my education efficiency is at 114%. That's good. How is infrastructure here now? 91, need 114, 146, so that's good. If we look at the tile improvements map mode, you can see that, yeah, I've been focusing them on the coast just because I think it's funny, that they've been building a lot.
Yeah, the AI loves building. I think I have to change it because it's probably too eager with building construction. It's not the best at improving efficiency of the population.
Let's see. If we look at the
Interesting.
demographics here, we have a lot of gatherers.
Were you the one building them on the coast?
Yeah, yeah, I'm building on the coast.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
All right, so I'm making a lot of money from my raids. Our research is going up. I want to try to get a new technology during the stream, but it's taking a while.
Well, it's just 17%. So
All right, let's see here. Just built some more buildings while I'm waiting. Our raid attempt failed. We were spotted, but our warriors returned home safely. Yeah, let's reduce my military by a. Oh, I have 10 soldiers. That is way too much. Let's go down to 4. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to make a lot more money because I'm not spending it on my military, and they're less likely to be spotted. I'm going to look at my treasury.
that's a lot of soldiers. Yeah, we need more detailed military control because right now raids can only send the raids kind of choose their size automatically, and they send up to 10 soldiers, but that's clearly not optimal. So
Right.
again, we need better UI. A
Yeah.
lot of things right now are about getting to a better UI.
Well, I think we'll see which things need to be focused on the most in the UI as we play. Like right now, military is of more importance because it's one of the primary ways you spend your time in the game at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Because like, if we spend too much time optimizing military, we could later add other game systems, and we could forget to flesh them out as much because people will be focused on military.
Yeah.
Huh, the track is
Oh,
kind of dead, surprisingly.
my population has increased. It was at 76, now it's at 80.
Maybe there's a bug in how it calculates population because it seems to change when you send people out and when they return.
Does it?
I've noticed.
Okay. That's not what I've seen.
No, I mean,
No.
could you send them out and we could see if you send them out?
Well, they are sent out at the moment.
Maybe
Oh, yeah,
use
you're right.
yeah.
Huh. So when I send my people out, the population increases.
Oh, it counts them twice. It counts them twice when they're out.
Ah, finding bugs.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, this
I
technology sure
think I
is
may.
taking a while.
Okay, I think I should. I think I should subtract 100% from the technology screen because even though it's 133%, what happens is that it subtracts 100% from it. then it gets 33%, and then it every what is it? Every 6 months on average, it checks your provinces and tries to research in them based on how much above you are on over 100%.
Okay.
So if I'm reading this correctly, the base mean time to happen for you right now for our technology is, I think, 15 years.
Oh,
10, 12, 15, 25. Yeah, this will need a lot of rebalancing because I think what we're observing right now is that trading is too strong and that technology is still too difficult, even though I made it 10 times easier.
well, I don't mind it if it's really slow in the early game. If it picks up later, the beginning can be slow, and then later it accelerates a lot as you develop.
Right, but I think, yeah, I guess so. But I think the issue with that is that it would be difficult for things to pick up quickly because technologies need upkeep. So when you research it, it will drop. Your efficiency will drop by quite a bit. I think, no. I guess maybe it won't because the more technologies you have, the less of a percentage each individual technology is. So maybe it's not a problem.
I've actually never
It's hard
unlocked
to
the
say.
technology, so I don't know.
Oh my goodness! Don't tell me it's back to. But then again, it's only 13 years, so let's not get worried. Let's not get worried just now.
Well, I have seen the AI get technologies. I let the simulation go for about 30 years, and I saw the differentiation. So I
Oh, okay.
know it works for the
Then
AI.
it works. If it works for the AI, I'm pretty certain it will work for you. I
Pretty
can
sure.
check really quick. I mean, the only way it wouldn't work is if there is a check for AI before it's run. But there isn't, so it should work.
All right. Well, let's see here. My infrastructure investment's got to be really high. Yeah, it's an 81, but we need 160.
So
I'm
it's
getting,
like 50%?
yeah, I'm getting a lot of money. Okay, I'm at 161 with my research. That's pretty good. And doing all this rating also increases the mood because successful raids will very slightly increase mood.
Yeah. And it needs more buttons to click. I think that much is still clear.
Yeah. I definitely there needs to be some way for them to resist me rating them.
But they do it. You lost like 5 people at the very beginning.
I did that one time, but I think battles would be nice.
Battles do happen. The game resolves them with the Lancaster's model. But I guess we'd want to see them like we planned before.
Yeah. Boy, this stream
This
sure
is
has kind of died.
yeah, surprising. I wasn't expecting that. I thought there'd be
Well,
more questions towards the end.
well, I think it's just because we're sort of out of things to show. The last thing I wanted to show was the researching of the
Technology.
technology, but it's
Yeah,
just
but that takes time. Yeah, we should have unpaused the game at the very beginning and just let AI do it for us.
yeah. Well, I bet if I go to change country, let's see if another place has gotten the technology.
You said 30 years, so it could be a while still.
Oh wow. Okay, so this place up here has four technologies.
Oh, I was wrong. You get out of place.
Yes, for some reason I'm just
I think it's because your country is so large that it's sort of maybe not collapsing, but the size of it is kind of waiting on it
oh, I see.
because you don't have taxation. You can't extract wealth from people involuntarily. So the larger you are beyond a certain point, the less efficient you are.
Yeah, I'm looking at these high population areas. All the high population areas don't have much technology.
Yeah, I bet you that's the reason.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well, now we know.
I think the optimal size for beavers would be like 30, 40 people, if I remember correctly. And if you start going beyond that value, you really need high happiness so that people still support you, even though they have all those other, splinter families in the clan.
So I guess we need to have more ways to interact with the happiness value.
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a fair place to stop the stream. We've been going for over 2 hours now. That's the longest one by far.
I guess there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
We had stuff to show.
yeah, there's a lot to show, but I think it's pretty much all been shown. So anyway, do you have any closing remarks, or you want to tell people what you're going to work on next, or something like that?
I haven't decided yet what I will work on next. I mean, besides conquest, I guess that's a given for the coming week. Uh, we'll try to have a next stream next month, maybe a bit sooner before that. And besides that, thank you for coming and having us here.
Yep, I think it's a good place to stop. Well, thanks for coming. We do have a huge viewership, so a lot of people came for the stream. I'm glad you came. I'm glad we could show all this stuff to you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.